Hello everyone! Welcome back to Let's Play Great Ace Attorney 2. Ryunosuke's Resolve. This is Vitafuser. In our last episode, we got these three peddlers in the courtroom, and we're trying to unravel their testimony. Yeah. Let's get on to it. Is that what you're saying, Mr. Sandwich? Well, it means I'll be burning in hellfire for the rest of my days. So be it. Yes, that's what I'm saying. Can you elaborate, please, sir? Old blabbermouth here headed for the room where the gunshots seemed to come from. But there was someone else who crept up the stairs behind him, too. That's right. That rotten liar over there. Did you mean to say that you did, in fact, take yourself to the scene of the crime after all? What did I tell you, eh? Careful, don't throw that at me. I said I was good at telling barefaced lies, didn't I? Yeah, you mentioned it. Well, that revelation rocked the whole courtroom, didn't it? Who knew firecrackers packed such a punch? That's perjury. So you did indeed visit the scene of the crime, didn't you, young lady? Good grief! Well, now you come to mention it. I suppose, perhaps... I do clearly remember climbing the stairs to the room, yeah. Either you clearly remember it or you don't. Well, I shall consider a fitting punishment for this perjurious act later. For the time being, you will immediately amend your testimony to reflect the truth. Yes, my lord, of course. Maybe I did sneak along behind gossip and have a little peek in the room where it all happened. Hold it! You make a habit of lying, don't you, Miss Venus? Well, I suppose so. I don't really know, to be fair. If you want my advice, though, I take everything I say with a big pinch of salt. Alright, but you did in fact go to the room where the victim was killed on the day in question, didn't you? Oh, please, as if I would. I can't think of anything more terrifying. The truth, please. Well, right, just a bit then. I mean, a girl my age is curious about stuff, you know. Did you touch anything at the scene? Oh, please, as if I would. I mean, there was a dead body on the floor. The truth, please. Well, alright, just a little bit then. I did look to see if there was anything I could sell. So I did give the place a once-over. There was nothing to write home about. Right. Now I hesitate to ask, but you didn't move the notice board by any chance, did you? Just a few bits of loose change is all I had. The truth, please. Well, alright then. I thought there might be something worth having underneath it. So I blasted the flippin' thing. Sorry, flipped the blasted thing. You're telling us you did move that board. I think that did slip out, didn't it? Oh, you deaf bumper! I don't believe it. That girl doesn't think. So, did you find anything then? Something you might have taken, perhaps, to sell? Oh, please, I should be so lucky. And I meant the truth now! I might have found this old pocket watch under the nose board, I suppose. It's a bit of junk like this can't be worth much, if you ask. Ah! So it was you, was it? You're the one what took it! Gina! Young lady, may I remind you where you are? That watch That was a present to Inspector Gregson from the yard, for a big case he solved 10 years ago. The Professor case, no doubt. The boss used to wind it up every evening without fail when he was waiting for grub to come at the pub. I see. I swapped it off him once and blimey was he upset. He gave me a rod if... Said he hadn't missed a day in the last 10 years polishing it and winding it. It meant the world to him, that watch did. Possibly not the best thing to go diving for, then. It's not all that, though. I took it to Jabez that night to ask how much it was worth, but the old dealer wouldn't touch it. Wouldn't give me a penny for it. Said it wasn't working. Knocked about and worthless, he called it. I knew I should have lifted it. That watch must be submitted as evidence at once. Oh, please. Just so long as you promise to give it back when we're done. Not a chance. I'll swipe it from you if you try to get your grubby mitts on it again. That's enough. Hand the watch to the bailiff forthwith. Now, children, watch your manners. Good Lord. The glass appears to be broken. More than likely. It shattered when the inspector was shot. It doesn't tick anymore either. Which is why Jabez didn't want it. What a waste, eh? Yes, indeed. It appears to have stopped at the hour of 5. Exactly when the gunshot was heard then. Which supports the prosecution's claim, of course. Alrighty. Well, it would appear that the mystery of the moving notice board has been solved, at least. Let's take a look at this. Huh, there's a tiny little keyhole here. Do you see? That's probably for the winder used to wind up the mechanism. It looks a little unusual, don't you think? You just need the right key to wind it, I imagine. Why do I feel as though I've seen something? Something a bit like a key that's about the right size to fit in this hole. It would be wonderful if we had the key. Let's check carefully over what we've already found. The helmet of this charming policeman appears to be a little worse for wear. I'm not convinced about the charming part. But yes, you're right. The head part looks like he's been fairly heavily manhandled. Almost as if somebody's enjoyed twisting it around and around for fun. Shall we try twisting it around and around too? For fun? What's that? It appears to be some kind of key. It's tiny though. It couldn't be a key for a door. Not that size. Well, well, well. Do you think perhaps this key could be the key to Inspector Gregson's watch? Oh yes, it could be. Let's try it once, not a moment to lose. I knew it, a perfect fit. The inspector's watch has started going again. So it's obviously just been not wound up, that's all. What is this, Miss Suzata? Well, if the watch isn't actually broken after all, I have a feeling it could have profound implications. She's deep in thought now. Perhaps I'd better start thinking deeply, too. as predicted, it had very little bearing on the case. I don't think so. Now then, continue with your cross-examination, please. Counsel. I don't know anything about anything. I'm just a bystander, me. I'm just a blah, 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 blah. Excuse me. I can't see how this changes anything anyway. The detective still died when we heard the gunshot. I don't think so. There goes the volume. We got the right evidence. I'm afraid that's not necessarily the case. Oh? At the scene, we found this key to the winder of the inspector's pocket watch. A key? And having wound the pocket watch, we discovered that it in fact still works. You see, the watch didn't stop because it was broken at all. And that fact completely undermines the most fundamental premises on which this entire case has been built. What? Order! 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 But counsel! The watch has stopped at almost exactly 5 o'clock. Yeah, which is just when we heard that gunshot. It is exactly the hour. The time that was showing on the watch tells us nothing other than when it wound down. It's merely a coincidence that it happened to be at 5 o'clock. Objection. Even if that's true, the 3 witnesses here all heard a gunshot at 5 o'clock. So that's obviously when this crime was committed. Objection. I don't think so. No, that doesn't hold. Why not? Recall what Inspector Lestrade said only moments ago. The boss used to wind it up every evening without fail when he was waiting for his grub to come at the pub. Said he hadn't missed a day in the last 10 years. Polishing and winding it. It meant the world to him, that watch did. The victim was in the habit of winding his watch once a day, in the evening. We can reasonably assume, therefore, that he wound the timepiece on the evening before he died as well. Yes, that would be entirely reasonable. But if that's the case, you would expect the watch to have been completely wound down by 5 o'clock the following day. Aye! Well, how do you explain it then? In summary, the evening before the day of the incident, when the gunshot rang out in that room, the inspector was already unable to wind his watch. You can't mean... What would stop a man winding his watch if he's been in the habit of winding it every single evening for 10 years? The obvious answer is that he was already dead. Order! Order! That counsel is a most extraordinary claim. Objection. Extraordinary isn't the word. It's absurd. You claim he was already dead the night before? You really think Scotland Yard's coroner would have overlooked something like that? On that subject, there is something rather surprising. There's actually an omission in the coroner's report. The time of death is not noted. That's right. Wait a minute. You're forgetting my legs went from under me when I kicked the door in. What do you mean? Like I said, I planted my hand in a dirty great puddle of blood. Yes. So the victim's blood hadn't dried. It was fresh. It catches on fast, doesn't it? But that blood could be explained in any number of ways. It could have been put there afterwards. Some fresh blood could even poured over the victim's body after he... Come on. Does my learned friend think that fresh blood is available on every street corner? Well, it needn't necessarily have been human blood, of course. We've been told previously that Scotland Yard has no way to identify the blood as human. The problem is currently being researched. At present, you are correct. It is beyond our abilities. So then, a chicken's blood could have been used, for example. It's certainly a possibility it wasn't the inspector's blood at all.
Objection.
But the gunshot was heard at 5 o'clock that afternoon. That's beyond the question. I don't think so. Is it, though? What? Given that the time of death of the victim has already been called into question, it isn't beyond the realms of possibility that what these witnesses heard wasn't a gunshot at all. Oh, please. What are you trying to say? Stop throwing those at me. Us lot knows what we heard. It was a loud bang that came from their room. Now, you listen to me. A street seller's ears are his livelihood. I don't doubt your ears, sir, but all you can state with certainty is that you heard a noise. Explain yourself then, counsel. A noise that sounds like a gunshot could have been made with the Venus Firecracker Special.
Take that!
Something like this. The culprit could have set off one of these to fake a gunshot. Good gracious, the very fireworks that are sold by the witness. Now hold on a minute, are you saying I did it? My pretty little firecrackers only make a little pop anyway. See? Not 100 of them together. The Venus Special that you sell for 600 pennies sounds like this. As the court can now attest, it sounds very much like a gunshot, in fact. Ah! You're trying to suggest somebody set one of those fireworks off at the scene. I'm suggesting that somebody knew the defendant was in the room at 5 that day, and sought to implicate him by creating a sound like a gunshot for these peddlers on Fresno Street to hear.
Objection.
But even the accused himself has testified he saw no one else in the room at the time. Whether it was a gun or a firecracker, the only person present to cause that bang was Barrack Van Zeeks. One whiff of a match and my firecrackers go pop. See? It's why people like them. I fear for your fingers, young lady.
Objection.
Recently, during my time here in Britain, I've learned of a very useful invention indeed. Something called a time bomb. Good heavens, a bomb! Yes, a device that allows you to blow up whatever you like, whenever you like. Mr. Naruhodo, I worry that your unfortunate phrasing there may lead to yet another international incident. No. It's the whenever you like part that's important. A timed device. Yes, exactly. A timed device. Something of that nature could have been planted at the scene. A device that was able to produce the sound of a gunshot long after the culprit had left. Your extravagant claim will have to be substantiated with evidence, counsel. What proof do you have to suggest in any way that a time device was employed to create the gunshot? Oh, call me picky. Maybe just this, candelabrum. As the court has already discussed, the tip of one of the candles in this candelabrum has been blown off. Indeed, because it was struck by the bullet, which presumably passed through the victim. I don't think that's possible, my lord. Not possible? Why? One, did you check for a freaking exit wound? Because of the scorching. There are gunpowder scorch marks clearly visible on the broken candle. There are. Goodness, yes. But is it not the case that there was also scorching on the victim around the bullet entry wound? That's right, there was. But as we heard earlier, scorching like that only occurs when the target is at very, very close range, a matter of centimeters from the gun. Which means the scorching on the candle can't possibly be the result of a gunshot. You're suggesting it came from the fireworks. How can that be, eh? The fact that there is such visible scorching on the candle suggests that the fireworks must have been right next to it when they exploded. Or to put it another way, the candle and the firecrackers were joined together. The culprit somehow attached the firecrackers at a point partway down the candle. Right after the killer had left the scene, the candle slowly burnt down along with the other two, until eventually it ignited the fuse of the firecrackers, generating a loud bang. And that is how these three witnesses came to believe they heard a gunshot at 5 o'clock. Well, what a plot. And this implies the victim could have died earlier than we'd been led to believe. The previous day, even.
No. I just sold your horses. All us lawyers saw the victim going in the building, remember?
I couldn't forget that flame-colored hair, even if I wanted to. The person you saw entering the building wasn't the victim at all. Considering this, obviously, anyone can wear a wig. So the person these witnesses saw entering the building 15 minutes before the incident occurred could easily have been somebody else entirely, wearing the red hairpiece.
Someone else?
Do you mean to say it was the same person who contrived the firecracker trick? In other words, Inspector Gregson's excuse me, killer. Oh, very impressive, Ryunosuke. Kazuma, I'm really quite amazed you've come this far. But after all, wasn't I the one who told you that you had all the makings of a great defense lawyer? I also noticed the lack of time of death in this report. A stark omission. But as far as I'm concerned, this whole country's justice system leaves a lot to be desired. Order! Prosecutor Asogi, what on earth do you mean by that statement? You're getting on the judge's bad side now. I hear that many of the leading members of Britain's judiciary are present to observe this trial today. So we cannot allow even the slightest doubt to be overlooked. The defense's assertion about the time of death based on the victim's stopwatch is just conjecture. But, while the possibility exists my learned friend may be correct, we have a duty to explore it. Well, certainly. I would agree with you. And what immediately comes to mind is, of course, what was Inspector Gregson doing and where did he go on the day before the incident? Do you know? The inspector always carried out his investigative work alone. His movements were treated as confidential within Scotland Yard.
Even within the yard?
However, considering the evidence we've been presented with so far, I'd say it's fairly apparent what case the man was pursuing. Wouldn't you, my learned friend? Yep, it's the Red-Headed League. My lord, the defense believes it can explain to the court the case that was being investigated by Inspector Gregson at the time of death.
Very well, counsel.
Present your argument to the court. What evidence is suggestive of the case being investigated by the inspector on the day prior to the incident?
Take that!
I believe this red hairpiece points to the answer. We might assume it was part of a disguise used to carry out an undercover investigation.
Clearly not. Such a brightly colored hairpiece would only serve to make the inspector more noticeable.
Yes, that's quite true. It would definitely have made him stand out in a crowd. Except, that is, in a crowd of gentlemen from the Red-Headed League.
The Red-Headed League?
So, you'd already worked it out.
What on earth is this all about?
Is there such an extraordinary league of gentlemen? League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. I actually like that movie. It's a shame that it didn't do well. The Red-Headed League is currently under investigation for grand deception. A deception of what nature, Council? They've been targeting red-headed men across all of London and tricking them out of small sums of money. 2 men were arrested for the misdemeanor only yesterday, in fact. My lord, the defense calls for those 2 men to be summoned at once.
2 redheads!
Inspector Gregson clearly infiltrated the Red-Headed League using this hairpiece, so it's very likely he had direct contact with these criminals. And it's quite possible that such contact led to more serious events. I concur that we cannot in good conscience leave this new avenue unexplored. Well done, Mr. Naruhodo. Well, it's another possible line of inquiry for us, at least. The prosecution will make immediate arrangements for the charged men to appear.
Bring these 2 Red-Headed League conspirators before me, Prosecutor Asogi.
At once, my lord.
Very good. We will have a 30-minute recess. Court is adjourned.
And with that, we'll continue next time. See you guys then.